Hey, what's up? Hello everyone, welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and today we are talking about the brand new, well, I guess maybe it's a few weeks old at this point, movie Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I'll be up front. I'm the reason why we're getting to this late. I wasn't very excited to see this movie, and there was other stuff coming out around this time, like Air, like Mario, like 1001. Like, these are movies I want to see a little bit more, so they were the top of my priority. This dropped down a little bit, but I finally see it, so we can finally, talk about this.
I'm curious, why weren't you that excited for this movie? Had you seen Game Night before?
I love Game Night. Game Night's a 10 out of 10 to me, so I don't know why I wasn't excited for this. Most of the
You're just
promotional
not nerdy
material,
enough.
maybe, but I just thought most of the ads for this did not look good. And um, I don't really know. I just think that all those other movies like Rylane, like Air, like 1001 just spoke to more like specific things I'm more interested in. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to hate this movie because I still had a fun time with it. It just wasn't like, oh, I need to rush out to go see this right away.
I guess the first question I have is just, obviously you're not really into this. This doesn't seem like your type of thing. Do you have any relationship with Dungeons and Dragons at all before this? Or is that kind of where your skepticism comes from, is that you don't play Dungeons and Dragons?
I mean, I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, and most of my knowledge of it comes from usually people making fun of it or the people who play it. So I don't think that really had a sway, positive or negative. Just, I mean, for better or for worse, I have not seen much of Chris Pine's filmography, so I have no connection with him. The rest of the cast is pretty much not people I'm very familiar with. Yes, I know the directors, but everything else was just like, I don't really know. But yeah, like I mentioned before, I love Game Night. Game Night's great. So once I learned that those people did this, I was like, okay, now I'm, a little bit excited to see it.
I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons player either. I've played a few times. It's always really fun. And the thing that I think that this movie captured about Dungeons and Dragons is that it's not a serious game. Like, it's written to be a serious game, but when you play it with a group of friends sitting around a table, everyone spends the entire time just absolutely messing around, just dicking off. And the thing that this captured is it didn't just feel like a fantasy action adventure movie to me. It felt like a fantasy action adventure where the characters were being controlled by a bunch of nerds sitting around a kitchen table rolling dice. Overall, I think I was most impressed by the way that they built the fantasy world. How did you feel about the world building? And in general, is it just Dungeons and Dragons, or are you skeptical about like a lot of fantasy stuff, like Lord of the Rings?
I'm not. I wouldn't say skeptical is the right word, but I have not seen Lord of the Rings, so that doesn't really help my case here. But
Dylan, what?
yes, I
Dylan,
have not
what?
seen. I have
Shut the
not seen
fuck up.
any Lord of
What?
the Rings media. No Hobbit, no TV, no movies, no anything. I know the look of shock here, but I did like the world building here. I thought it was very good. I did like everything involved, and I think the world building was really cool. I was sucked in.
I'm gonna try to get past the whole haven't seen Lord of the Rings thing, but
Eventually,
we're gonna change that. God damn,
eventually.
what the hell? What the hell? What the? You're an Oscars guy. That's like the Oscars series.
I've seen Godfather, so give me credit for there at least. But with this movie
Man,
though, the thing I think I liked most about it was its ensemble. They were all very funny. They all brought something new and different to the table. No two characters felt like the same. So I guess I would have to ask you: is there someone who stood out the most to you?
I really enjoyed Hugh Grant. He was in it less than I hoped. Like at the beginning, I kept thinking to myself, if he is in it, hamming it up this much through the whole movie, this is like a Paddington 2 level Hugh Grant performance.
I thought he was good. I wouldn't say he's one of the standouts for me. I mean, I get your angle, and I've heard a lot of other people say Hugh Grant's their favorite as well. I saw this little movie earlier this year that was kind of dumb but kind of fun. Operation Fortune, however you say it, the new Guy Ritchie movie, and he's
Mm.
hamming it up in that. And I thought I liked that hammy Hugh Grant more than this hammy Hugh Grant, but they're
Oh,
both fun.
interesting.
Ray J. John Page, I thought was really good in his limited screen time as well. He kind of takes over this movie for about 10, 15 minutes, and those are probably my favorite 10 to 15 minutes of the whole thing. But the core four, I thought were all pretty fun, and they all brought something. And there was some funny stuff, there was some drama stuff. Just I think with a movie like this, you need to have a very likable main cast, and I thought they were all very likable. Like
Also want to give a shout out to Sophia Lillis, who really stood out to me as the druid character, whose name escapes me because I can't remember character names ever. She did a really good job. She had great screen presence, was really fun to watch, and I ended up caring about that character as well as the rest of the main four. But her and Justice Smith were the two that I really gravitated towards the most. I really liked their chemistry on screen. I thought they were both very funny and had a lot of charisma and were very charming and captivating. As I mentioned earlier, they did a great job building the world of this film. I thought the production design and the visual effects were really, really stellar. There was one sequence where Sophia Lillis's druid character turns from animal to animal as she's escaping from the witch, and the camera's doing this one take following this animal as it's trying to escape through the city. I thought that was just spectacular.
Definitely a fun scene. I would say it was good. It wasn't my highlight of the movie, but I definitely was entertained while it was going on. In terms of visual effects, I really liked the fat dragon. I thought that was a very fun sequence, but that's also another sequence where Ray J. John Page is on screen as well. So excluding those ones, I liked to move away from visual effects, but to go into some makeup work. I really liked the scene with the dead soldiers. I don't know how much of that was makeup and how much was visual effects, but that I thought was some very cool and interesting visuals because they weren't like realistic. It was very comedic, which I felt like very much fit into the tone. But another technical element I really liked was the editing. Like I like those first 10, 15 minutes when you're hearing Chris Pine's character tell this backstory, and it's kind of not necessarily in an Adam McKay way, but kind of in an Adam McKay way, cutting between one story and then coming back out like, hey, you got that right? And I really like that opening gag about we just gotta wait for Jonathan. Where's Jonathan?
Where's
And it
Jonathan?
pays
Where
off
is
so
he?
well.
Oh, the payoff at the end of the movie is so good. I think that's the comedy of this movie, in my mind, is so stellar. The way that they set up jokes and then come back and knock them back down, I think is just spectacular. Game Night does it really well, and the directors do it just as well here. I think that this is less funny than Game Night was, for sure. This is such a funny movie.
I guess to mention one more cast member before we move into our next segment of this review. I love Jason Bateman, and I felt like Chris Pine was being Jason Bateman in this movie, for better or for worse. I
Yeah.
get Jason Bateman would not fit in this role, but I really like how they kept that style of humor carrying over from Game Night, where he does star in that. And I just really like the dynamics and the like the tone and the pace of the comedy to carry on to your point from before. Like I feel like the satirization as well as just the one-liners or even the jokes they set up in the first or second act that come back and pay off at the end of the movie.
Now, we have elaborate board games and ridiculous rules of board games being satirized in Game Night, and of course Dungeons and Dragons is being made fun of in this movie. What nerdy thing do you want to see these filmmakers take on next?
So when I was a kid, I loved to play the game Clue. And I know there's been a Clue movie, but I think that these filmmakers could bring a lot of, re-energize and a lot of different styles and wit and just angles to bring to the story because it wouldn't be a traditional like a murder mystery, but it would be a more kind of like Game Night was, like a joke, but also there is a mystery they have to solve throughout. And I think that you could, in like a Knives Out way, get a bunch of not A-listers, but a lot of B or C tier people, bring them into a room, have them be the various like well-known characters, but also put their own spin to it, and overall make fun of Clue while also probably making one of the best board game adaptations.
Give them a Monopoly movie. My god, that would be hilarious. Just a big satire of capitalism. But we're an Oscars show. Let's talk Oscars. Do you think this has a chance in any category at all?
No, while there's stuff that I think maybe should be shortlisted, I think with this film's box office performance, this will not even get a push from Paramount.
You make a really good point there, and I guess the thing that I'm clinging to is the possibility of visual effects because it reminds me so much of that Love and Monsters movie that came out a few years ago, which got a random nomination. That said, that happened in 2020, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole reason for that being nominated is that nothing was making money at the box office. So this tiny movie that had some really cool visual effects managed to do really well.
I mean, when we did our visual effects, like way too early predictions, we are like, we can't really come up with a 10, so maybe this could slide in terms of a short list, but I don't really see it having a shot for a nomination because I think, as you mentioned, the only reason Love and Monsters got in was because it was the COVID year. But I would also love to see this make the makeup short list as well, but probably
Mm-hmm.
as well probably would not be nominated. just because I know it had a very good opening weekend compared to expectations, but this film needs to make about like 300, 350 worldwide, and it's going to be lucky if it makes it to 150.
Oh, that's too bad because this movie is clever and fun.
I would love to see more of this, whether it's with these cast of characters or completely new crew. I'm down to see what is the future, and I did like this one a good amount of it. I just wanted to say like, oh, I'm rushing to like recommend other people to go see this.
It's tough to see movies that are original and trying new things and taking risks. As much as this is an existing IP, it's still taking a risk in
Mhm.
doing something different with it, being a comedy. It is a shame that it's not doing too well, but y'all out there, you should go and check out Dungeons and Dragons
Yes.
Honor Among Thieves if you have not yet. And if you have, let us know what you think about the movie down below.
Definitely let us know what you think, and please inform us if you're able to find Jonathan. I'm still looking for him. I just don't know why he's not here yet. But until next time, my name is Dyl.
And my name is Matt, and this is Fantasy Filmball.